Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Time is 6:00 p.m. We're here in the Select Board conference room, newly painted at Town Hall. This meeting is being held in hybrid fashion, both here and on Zoom. In attendance tonight is myself, Doug Moglen, Vice Chairman Jason Perrone, Clerk Diane Gale, Acting CAO Chief Robert Landis, Assistant CAO Nadine Signoni, and Lisa Anderson is in the other room. If we could first start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Lieutenant Banish, could you lead us tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 6:00, we'll start with public comments. This is your opportunity. If you have anything that you'd like to address to the Select Board that's not on the agenda tonight, now's your opportunity. We'll start on Zoom first. If there's anyone on Zoom, please use either the hand raise function or just go ahead. Seeing and hearing none, is there anyone in the room with a public comment tonight?
Jody, giving you a little Southwood, Mass. Jason, I assume you're going to come sit in the audience for this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews scheduled tonight for the position of lieutenant with the Southwick Police Department. And we're going to start with Sergeant Roger Arduini first.
Now,
And
Mr.
Mr.
Dees,
Perrone?
I will be recusing myself from this.
Very well. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. So what would you like?
Wherever you'd like, sir.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good.
You got a water. You're good to go, right?
Yes, I think I'm gonna need it.
This time there's only 11 questions.
Okay.
Some of them may be harder than others. Just kidding.
Okay, we're going to have 11 questions, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions you have of us.
Okay.
Or make any statements you'd wish to make.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Okay.
And then this is going to come up under old business later on tonight. I'm not positive if we're going to make a determination tonight or not.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yes.
Ready to go?
I'm ready.
You want to go first?
Sure, we're just, you know how it works. I think we're just going to
Yes.
read them in order and rotate. So rotate, we're going to pass back and forth. They're not going to rotate.
Okay.
We're going to volley.
All right.
So have you prepared yourself to become a leader in the Southwick Police Department?
Well, within the past several years, I've gone to every training that I can possibly go to. I've asked to go to leadership training. I went back to college. I got a degree in criminal justice for a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree. I also got a certificate program in police leadership and policy making. I have worked hard at basically reclassifying my position to a sergeant's position, coming up with a job description. I'm basically the backup for Akadis to Lieutenant Banish right now. So I'm the one that would enter information in there. I think I have a strong relationship with the court in the area, several different courts. I have taken on a lot of extra duties that have been given to me the past few years that, the lieutenant or the chief would be normally doing. And I ended up just taking these duties on myself and working hard at doing a good job and completing everything that I start.
What are two faults or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
My weaknesses would be trying to think. I mean, sometimes communication for me can be a weakness, as far as getting my point across to certain people. I think that public speaking would probably be something that I would have to work on. I'm not the best public speaker, but I think it's something that, with certain training, I could work on it and be more comfortable doing things like that. And did you ask strengths also? Was that or just weaknesses?
Just weaknesses.
Did the weaknesses?
And
Okay.
it was more along the lines of your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
My current duties, I would definitely do some kind of cross training because as it sits right now, when I try to take any time off from work, I come back to a pile of paperwork on my desk. And I really don't take any time off. I'll take a day here, a day there. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to take a week, because if I was gone for a week, I would have a very difficult time coming back to work and being able to catch up on what I have. And we have a certain Sergeant Paul Miles who's leaving soon, and he was the one that took up my slack when I wasn't there. He was the one that was able to send this information to court. He could do some records requests for me. And it's just something that I feel needs to be taken care of. So I don't feel punished when I take a day off from work. And that's specifically in my position.
Sure.
That's something that's tough for me to do. I mean, even when I was in the hospital for 4 days, in the emergency room, I was still answering emails and texting and trying to get things done that nobody else knows how to do. And if you had somebody else that knew how to do the duties that I do, it would take a lot off of me as far as, not being held down into being there every single day.
Thank you.
I just have a follow-up on that.
Yes.
You said communication, getting your point across to others. Can you explain that a little bit?
I think I know the emails are great as far as just sending out blanket emails to people. And sometimes I don't always have the time to have somebody come in and explain everything to them. And I think that's something that I need to work on is send the email and then call the person in so I can, talk to them and explain everything to them better. I mean, the email is a good way to track, to say, yes, I did it. I sent it to them. But to have somebody come in and speak with you is a better way of doing it.
Okay, thank you. Was that my flip-flop? Is it your turn again, or?
No, you get to go.
Okay, what was your greatest failure and what did you learn from the experience?
I think my greatest failure is when I didn't get a sergeant position that I had worked hard for, and I didn't get it, and I didn't badmouth anybody. I turned around and I said, what can I do to make myself a better candidate next time? And that's when I did the extra training. I signed up to go back to UMass. I signed up, with 2 kids, and it wasn't easy to do. And I finished a a master's degree in a year and a half. And that's how I dealt with that, which I felt was a failure at the Southwick Police Department. I mean, I just worked as hard as I could to make myself the best candidate every single time for any position that comes up. I look at the requirements, and then I look at the preferred. And now I'm the preferred candidate for these positions because I check every box in the preferred candidate listing.
Sergeant, what are three of the most important values that you demonstrate as a leader? And please provide an example of each of these in practice.
Okay, number one would be integrity. I mean, that's something that every leader needs, is being able to be honest with everybody, being the person that they can come to get an answer, being somebody they can trust. And that's the integrity part of it. Number two would be explaining things to people, like having somebody come in when they do something improperly, as far as anything, entering property, if they do it the wrong way. I'll have that person come in, sit with me, and I'll go through the whole process with them, how to, place it into evidence, how to track it, how to release it, everything. And by doing that, I think people that I work with have respect for me because I'm actually showing them how to do my job, and that's part of like the cross training again, where it's nice to be able to ask somebody to do something for you, and that they can do it without my help. On the third, I mean, just myself is basically training everybody to do your job when you leave. I mean, that's something that I think is important, to have people ready to take over your position if you leave, if you have an issue, if you're not going to be there. It's something that you have to build up within the department to cover you when you're gone. I mean, that's something that I feel is important, to build basically a reserve bench of people to be behind you when you're not there.
Thank you.
Please describe the role of technology in law enforcement.
It's definitely changed a lot, and I mean, it's something that, once again, I mean, I can say, I think eventually we're going to have cameras. I think the whole state is going to be mandated to have cameras at some point. And for me, being a supervisor, I think they're a good thing now. I think it's something that 99% of the time, it saves the officer from a false accusation, where you can go in and watch the video and say, well, this is exactly what he said, without any going back and forth. It's a fact. And just, I mean, everything's computerized now. Everything that we do is computerized. Whether it be sending reports to the court, whether it be writing your own reports at the police station, everything's done on a computer now. Where not too long ago, I went through old reports and everything used to be handwritten, and the work wasn't as good as what we can produce now with the technology that we have. I mean, everything is better. The cruisers are better. The tasers are, we have tasers now, which we didn't have in the past. We just went to better sights on our rifles and on our handguns. Technology's changed a lot even since I've been there. As far as, I would say, when I went through the police academy, I remember people saying that you're going to be recorded. And I thought to myself, 20 something years ago, we're never going to be recorded in the town of Southwick. Who's going to ever record us? But now that the technology's gotten that much better, we're recorded almost everywhere we go. We walk into a store, we're recorded. It's just, and I think that's a good thing.
Good.
Mhm.
As a leader in the police department, you must often build support for goals and projects. Describe a situation that demonstrated your ability to build the necessary support.
Well, I would say just, I have a project now that I would like to take on, but I think I've built up support in our department by going forward with writing a grant for a BHN person to be in our community. I think everybody behind me supported that grant that I wrote, and I completed it. And it takes a burden, I think, off of us as police officers, because we've been the clinicians for the past 30 years in this town, where now we can kind of rely on somebody else to do that kind of work for us. And I think I gained respect from the people that work with me, that that's something that was really important to do for this town. I did get backing from anybody that has dealt with it, has been pleased with how it works out. When it's something that, it's very simple to do. We get an email, I get an email address, I put their information, who it is, where it is, what the issues are, and email it to BHN, and they will either send somebody out immediately, or they'll send somebody up on a follow-up, shortly after. And I think it's freed up a little bit of time for the Southwick Police Department and the officers that are on the road.
Thank you.
Please describe the processes and considerations that you would use to maintain officer morale and to avoid burnout.
Okay. I would, if I was a lieutenant, I think to maintain morale, I think I would come in sometimes on a 4 to 12 shift and ride with some of the people. And, come in on a 4 to 12 some night that I have time, in full uniform, ride with them, see what they're doing, see how, we can help them by getting equipment or anything that they need. I think that's something that would be important. I think that would build morale. Or even, on a 4 to 12 shift, stop in with a pizza or something like that. Bring them something to eat. Maybe that would build some morale. I think to get people together is something that's important, and we've kind of gotten away from that because all of us are so busy right now. Every single person at that police department has other obligations, and it's not easy to make time to do these fun things that, my father's generation did when he was a police officer in this town. They used to be able to do a lot more, softball tournaments. And I know that Chief Landis, he's definitely done, good with that, with having softball games. And I think it's a good thing to get the people together like that. And I think that maybe another thing to build morale would be for us to have an easily accessible program to deal with a mental health issue that somebody in the police department is having. Something that's easy, like I have right now to contact BHN. If somebody's having, even if it's not an issue, but to be able to talk to somebody, because all of us we've been through it all over the past 20 something years that I've been here, 25 years. And it's overwhelming after a while. And to be able to go, I think, talk to somebody, even off the record. And I know we do it like in roll call, we used to talk about it, but I don't know if that was enough to make somebody feel more comfortable after going to some of these incidents that we go to. I mean, the average person doesn't have to see the things that a police officer has to see in their lifetime. I mean, they might see one. We're going to see a few every single year. We're going to go to these life-changing events for another family. And I think going to talk to somebody would be good for every individual in the police department.
Follow up on that?
Sure.
What about the midnight guys? No pizza for them?
Well, there's no pizza places open at midnight. Unless I went to Westfield, I guess. No, I just think it would be good for me to come in and ride around for, even an hour or two on each shift
I
to
bet
see.
they'd like it if you made cookies.
I can't eat cookies anymore. So
Can you provide an example of where you took the initiative to propose a new program, modify a policy or practice or similar project, and how you went about it?
well, I just did the VHN example, but I'm going to say when I basically took the whole evidence room, had somebody from another police department come in with a PowerPoint, show me the correct way how to log everything, give everything certain areas in the property room, and it has made a big change. I went through probably 200 pieces of paper with about 50 on each sheet. And me and Kirk Sanders sat there for about a year and a half and went through every single piece of property, saw what we could dispose of. We were able to dispose of a lot of drugs that have been sitting there for years. There were several other items we had a car in our property that had been there for 20 years, when it wasn't where it was supposed to be, but we got permission to dispose of it. That was, I think, one of the highlights of when I got promoted was to take care of that room and fix it. And now, if somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I need my cell phone back," there used to be boxes in there. It wasn't, there were, 25 boxes in there that had just numbers on them, and you have to look through every box to find a piece of property. Now, when I go in there, I have them set in certain areas. Be shelf A, box 2. So I can go shelf A, box 2, and I know that piece of property is in that box, and I can just hand it to the person. And it's tracked that way. It goes from me to the evidence room to that box. And I can look it up on the computer, and it tells me exactly what it is.
So as a follow-up, I take it, because it says here, was your proposal implemented and did it have the desired results? Apparently it was implemented.
There are still a couple hiccups here and there that I think it's more of an IMC problem, because for some reason on one of the sheets, it has returned to owner. And some of the guys are still returning it to owner there, but they're not tracking it the correct way. That box really shouldn't even be on there. But I catch them because I go through every month, I print out the whole report of everything that's in that evidence room. And if it just says that we have the property and it's not in a specific storage location, I know that it wasn't tracked the right way and it's missing. And I'll ask the person, "Where's this piece of property?" "Oh, I took that number by mistake. I don't have it here." And then I go in and say, "Number was taken by mistake," and we can delete the number. And it's the right way to track things there.
Thank you.
How would you create consensus and shared purpose in a situation where all parties originally differed in opinion, approach, and objectives? So basically chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do that is just talking to everybody and having the knowledge that I have and being able to explain everything to them and say, this is the right way to do it. If you have an opinion on doing it another way, I'll listen to you, and if it's just as good or better than what I have, then we'll go that way. But I want it to be known that before we make a decision, it's going to be the right decision. Even if mine isn't perfect and somebody's a little bit better than mine, I'll go with theirs, but we have to come to an agreement and make it the best decision possible for the police department. I hope I answered that correctly because I wasn't sure about the question.
That was good. Thank you.
The needs of the officers, the department as a whole, and all other agencies must be met in a thorough and timely manner. Please explain your processing and organizational skills that will ensure an effective and timely response when faced with multiple concerns and deadlines.
Like I do right now. I have a lot of stuff on my desk every single day. Before I leave, on the night before, I gather up everything that has to be done. The next day, I make a list, I put it on my desk. And that day, the next day when I come into work, I work on that list the whole day, then check them off one thing at a time. And I get 99% of the time, I finish everything on that list, unless something comes in, such as a call that I have to go on that takes me away from my desk for a while. I get that list completed almost every single day when I come to work. And that's just something I've done it because I have so many different things that I have to do in my position that if I don't stay on top of these every single day, it gets backed up and it will never get finished. And that's something I do because there's certain things I don't have to do them that often, but I still have to do them weekly or monthly. And I just have to stay on top of doing them every single day.
Just a follow-up to that. Do you currently have a backlog?
Right now I do not have a backlog. I mean, I do have a couple, like for tomorrow, I have some longer reports that have to go to elder services, and I do have some DCF reports that, I have to go out. And some of these can take 20 minutes to do, other ones can take hours to do. There could be a person that has 50 reports that needs to go to DCF, and I have to go through all these reports, and certain ones I have to take things out of, and it takes time. We can charge the person if it's over 2 hours, we can charge them. We can charge the lowest rate of an employee that has access to these records. Most of the time we don't because I just take care of it and do it for these people. I mean, sometimes we do have ones that are so large that I can't do, and it can be, I mean, some of them could take you 80 hours to do a records request. That could be 80 hours. And I can't do that right now. So I will, send them an email in return saying, this is going to take me 80 hours to do this job. And if you'd like it, we need a check for this amount of money before I start this process. And if they do pay, then I'm doing it, and I have to do it after hours or, there's no way around it. I mean, we have to do it. Anything that's a records request has to be done. Freedom of Information Act, you have to do it.
Okay, thank you. This one's me again, right? Are you a believer in cross-training to fill gaps? And I know you talked about that, and for succession planning.
Yes, I mean that, like I said before, it's something that needs to be done. It's tough because we're still a smaller police department. But for me, I mean, Paul Miles he's going to be tough to fill because he does a lot at the police department. And like I said, he was the person that was my backup when something had to be, a piece of property had to be released, Paul could go in and release it. When there was something that had to go to court, Paul knew the court system and he knew how to, print the reports, send them to court, electronically file everything. Paul knew how to do that. I mean, it's something that, you know, if I do happen to get promoted, I will work with whoever's going to take my position and work with them on doing everything. And then we have to get somebody else ready for that,
That's the follow-up question is, how might you expand those practices?
Yeah, we have to get somebody else. I mean, it would obviously have to be somebody on day shift because most of the duties that I have to take care of are on day shift. And you'd have to train them to basically do just about everything I do in my job because there's stuff that's time sensitive and it has to get to certain people by certain times.
That's all 11,
That
sir.
was 11.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. I have I guess a closing. I mean, I didn't write anything down, but I mean, I'm going to say that I've lived in this town my whole life. I grew up in a nice neighborhood. There were 30 kids around my age that I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I chose to live here because I wanted my kids to have the same childhood that I had growing up and living in this town. I think I've proven myself at the police department within especially the last probably 8 or 9 years that there's not one job that I am scared to do. I'll do anything for that police department. Anytime a task has been asked of me, I do it. No questions asked. I do it. Right now, I do a lot of I do the firearms, background checks. There's just so many different jobs that I do down there. And I'm not afraid to take on more, even though it makes it tougher on me. When I go to lunch, I go home, I grab something real quick and I bring it back to work and I eat it at work. I don't even really take a lunch break. I have enough time to go home and grab something and bring it back in, and that's it. And I'll sit there during my lunch break and I'll work. And I can say that I've done everything that I could have possibly done to make myself basically the best candidate for this position. I work every single day. I went back to school in my 40s and got a bachelor's degree, and then I got a certificate program in police leadership and policy making. I went back to school, got a master's degree, and I just think I've done everything I could possibly do in my power to be the best candidate for this position. And I do have some ideas for future projects that I would like to start and complete, as a lieutenant, if I'm fortunate enough to get this position. And one of them would be, I just did a project for a college and it was on policies, procedures, general orders. And I was going through these and some of them are they're outdated. They need to be redone. Some of them, some of them are from the 90s I went through one and it listed my father and there is, having the deer. Guy. Yeah. My father's been retired for 20 something years, but that's a project that I would like to take on if I'm able to get this position. And I've proven myself where I can start a project and finish it. And this is something that I would like to start and finish. I think I would, contact an accredited police department, review their policies and procedures, and maybe work something out here where I'd have to go through them all because they're not going to all fit in with the Southwick Police Department, but I think some of them would, and I think that's how I would start the project. Well, like I said, I've done everything in my power. I am the preferred candidate here. and I exceeded even the preferred candidate. You know, I've done everything. And I think I have a good working relationship with future Chief Banish. I think if there is an issue, and I think that if he's doing something that everybody in the police department won't be happy with, I think I can talk to him, and I think he'll listen to me, and I think we'll make a decision together.
Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Well done. Thank you.
Next one is Sergeant Crook. I'm just gonna grab the-
You'll never be able to read my notes. Well, don't underestimate. Oh, it's neat compared to some. That's not bad. I can move it. I mean, I wrote full words this time. This one, that's so neat. It's like an architect. I just. You must skip words. That's great.
Good afternoon, evening.
Evening.
Oh my goodness.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Very good. Okay, we have a list of about 96 questions.
Super.
It's actually 11. And we're going to take turns asking the questions.
Okay.
And at the end, you'll have the great opportunity to ask
This is Roger's kit.
to ask any questions you have of us, make
Okay.
any statements you wish to make, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
Sound fair?
let's go. Let's do it.
Do you want to start this time?
Nope.
Okay. How have you prepared yourself to become a leader in the Southwick Police Department?
Well, several years of working hard. I've been again trying not to sound repetitive from our last
Make
interview,
believe you
but,
haven't been here.
but I spent the last 23 years working very hard. I've been very fortunate as a police officer working for a small town. I've been afforded several roles throughout the police department, which allowed me to gain experience in several different areas of law enforcement. A lot of police officers don't have those opportunities because of the size of the department. There's not so many specialized units to spread the wealth, you might say. So yeah, just having the opportunities to work in all these different areas.
Sergeant, what are two faults or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
My own personal faults
or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
Weaknesses in my current spot. Again, the Southwick Police Department, we're a rather small police department. So there's one detective. Having just working myself in that office, I'm subjecting myself to several different situations, you might say, that are probably less than pleasant. It's kind of a lot for one person to take. You even hear comments from detectives from CPAC, the State Police Detective Bureau, they're like, God, you handle all these cases yourself. And so I think one way to rectify it is to try to break that up a little bit without actually hiring or putting on another detective, finding areas where either another sergeant maybe or a patrol officer could assist, say with motor vehicle accidents, the fatal motor vehicle accidents, or unattended deaths or things like that, just to break it up a bit so not one person is handling every single situation.
You have another one?
I mean, off the top of my head, it just goes without saying, you handle so many different situations. It just comes down to being that one person in that office. So, I mean, as far as a detective goes, but yeah, no, that's it.
Great.
What was your greatest failure and what did you learn from that experience?
Greatest failure. Wow. I mean, being a police officer, you never see the same situation twice. You're always learning. Um, maybe in different situations that you handle it in one way, and then when you have time to think about it, uh, you kind of think, well, I could have handled that differently. I don't think I can actually pinpoint any one particular failure. There's just several different ways where I think I could have handled any given situation a bit better.
What are three of the most important values that you demonstrate as a leader? And please provide examples of each of these in practice.
Dedication, work ethic. I think one of the greatest ones I can talk about is my time as K-9. Being a K-9 officer, it's something that you can't just, you train once and let it go. It's a continuous effort as far as your training goes to keep your K-9 partner up to speed. I put a lot of time, a lot of effort into that. That went on for 10 years. It resulted in having one of the best K-9s in the area. Jackson and I were recognized in several different things. Obviously, narcotics, our biggest narcotics hit back in 2014. But it's, dedication, determination. One of the cases as I entered the Detective Bureau was the Crestview case. It was a rather large B&E with quite a bit of firearms, cash, tools that were stolen. And it was just the constant dedication and just paying attention to what was going on. I mean, we broke that case by finding a socket that was for sale on Facebook Marketplace. It came down to just a socket. So the persistence and just not letting it go. It's just things like that. Just, the hard work and dedication.
Please describe the role of technology in law enforcement.
Ooh, that's a big one. Technology, as you all know, I mean, we all know technology is evolving each and every day. And one of the biggest things that we're facing in law enforcement is not only with technology evolving, so are the cyber crimes. These bad guys out there are finding each and every day they're coming up with a more sophisticated way to steal your identity, to break into your bank accounts. They're doing this in a way where the banks themselves cannot keep up with security. The federal agencies are having a tough time. A lot of these crimes are being done from other countries overseas. Trying to track these things down is near impossible. It is almost near impossible for state and local police departments, law enforcement agencies to try and help you as citizens in the town of Southwick. You reach out to these federal agencies and they just cannot handle that workload. They're working on much bigger cases because of this. It's so as technology is evolving, so are these crimes. I mean, it's not yearly or monthly, it's daily. What is big today is even bigger tomorrow. And it's incredible.
As a leader in the police department, you must often build support for goals and projects. Describe a situation that demonstrated your ability to build the necessary support.
I am a very self-motivating, driven person. I would never ask anybody to do anything in the police department that I'm not willing to do. So when we have projects or events, whether it was at the police association, pretty much lead by example. You show others what you can do with a little bit of hard work and try to motivate each and every one of them. Maybe a little push here, push there to get the fires going. But yeah, lead by example.
You want to add some specificity to that?
I mean, we're always doing different projects. We had a young family that lost a house due to a fire, and I just felt terrible. They have all these little kids that they lost everything. So we started a drive. We get a trailer, start putting things on social media, and before I know it, others were joining in. Other officers were jumping on board, and we pretty much rebuilt a house or filled up another house with all the things we collected. So again, just leading by example and just having the ability to drive people or to get them motivated.
Thank you.
Please describe the processes and considerations that you would use to maintain officer morale and to avoid burnout.
Morale is a top priority. I think I mentioned it before, where growing up working in a different trade, I worked for an employer, two brothers, and I absolutely loved the job. I loved going to work. I quickly found out, though, they argued. And the arguing would get quite intense. And it really made a miserable place to be after a while. And I kind of found that out the longer it went on. And I said to myself, there's nothing worse than having to go to work. We all have to go to work. There's nothing worse than going to work and being miserable all day and every day. So I said it years ago. If I was ever in a position where I held my own business, managed a group of people, or was some kind of a leader, that I would never, ever let that happen. To do that, communication. Chief Landis has, he's set the bar pretty high. I think morale has never been higher in our police department right now. Just staying in tune with everybody, listening to everybody, listening to their ideas, trying their ideas, not having, well, it's my way. My way is the correct way. My way is not always the correct way. I don't always have the correct answer. So the willingness to listen to people, be considerate to them, and just.
Can you provide an example of where you took the initiative to propose a new program, modify a policy or practice, or a similar project, and how you went about it?
Well, projects, for quite some time, I have been front running our fleet of cruisers. It started with just helping, back then it was Sergeant Bishop, with maintenance. It turned into taking over the whole program. Always looking for ways to improve our fleet with technology, the latest in just overall the appearance. So staying on top, creating, we've gotten a lot of compliments on our cruisers. They're sharp looking and they're well stocked, they're well equipped with all the latest technology. It's great for the guys. We hear it from officers that come from other police departments or others that visit, are very impressed with our equipment. So I worked very hard keeping that up to date. And just going back to K9. K9 was another one. It was just a program that evolved again with technology, using the latest gadgets and all that. But taking that program to the next level, and which I think we did. So
So as a follow-up, probably around the K9, was that your proposal to bring a K9 to the town?
No, that came in from Officer Brewer, Joe Brewer. He was our very first K9. The program was very new back then. They did a great job getting that program started. And Joe and I, we still talk. We trained with Joe all the time, and he was always pleased where I brought that program. But I had a lot of support from the staff, because it takes money. You know, we had gift accounts, but it was always money in the line in the budget, and they allowed me to take take it to the next level. Most of that was just training and hard work.
So you thought it had the desired results then?
Yes.
What do you think was the biggest benefit of the K9 program?
Well, I mean, we had a lot of success, Jackson and I. We were very fortunate. COVID, and not that Mike in general, not speaking bad about their program. They don't do anywhere near as much narcotics work, but COVID really changed that. It changed the way we did. And of course, the George Floyd incident changed everything for K9. There's a lot of towns they're afraid of the liability and things like this. But we did a lot of narcotics work. I had a great dog. He was a great tracker. We had some success stories catching, I actually observed a couple of guys that just seemed out of place on my off time in Westfield. I actually called Westfield PD, and of course, I kind of got myself into it without knowing. And phone rang 5 minutes later, and they're requesting K9. And Jax actually tracked these guys down and found them. I mean, it was just, we brought it to that level where our services were always requested, and we were all over. We traveled thousands of miles throughout Western Mass and beyond. So it was a great program. We had a great time. I'll never forget it.
Thank you for that.
How would you create consensus and shared purpose in a situation where all parties originally differed in opinion, approach, and objectives?
Well, again, I think everyone's opinion matters. Bringing everybody together, listening to everybody, being considerate, depending on what we're talking about or what we're working on or where we're trying to go. Just keeping that transparency there. Yeah, just communication. It always comes back to communication, listening, being considerate, knowing that you're not always the one, you're not always right. Your idea is not always the best.
The needs of the officers, the department as a whole, and all other agencies must be met in a thorough and timely manner. Please explain your processing and organizational skills that will ensure an effective and timely response when faced with multiple concerns and deadlines.
Well, that's actually one of my strong suits. Again, I've always been a very disciplined, a very self-motivated person. The downside of that is I'm not a very patient person. So when there is a goal or a task at hand, whether or not it's something that is done rather quickly or it's a project that's going to take some time, I'm always motivated to get it done. I don't like unfinished business. Again, that's where I kind of, people may consider it or consider it some kind of a type of a micromanaging. I don't see it that way. It's, I'll take on the task myself just to get it done, but lead by example. Let's do it now. By the time it takes for you to debate it, to talk about it, to argue about it, we could have had that task done.
Takes longer to write left-handed.
It does.
I can see that.
Are you a believer in cross-training to fill gaps and for succession planning?
Sure. I believe anybody can do any job. Everybody has certain talents that they're good at. Carpenters can build houses. Mechanics can fix cars. In the police world, as long as the training is there and somebody's willing to put in the hard work and they're willing to be trained and they're willing to put the effort in, I believe anybody can take on any job, as long as they have that drive or the willingness to learn. If somebody shows that willingness to learn, you go with it. hard work should be rewarded. We need self-driven officers. It's that kind of a job where one can, yeah, come in 8 to 4 and do their job and then go home. And there are several like that, several people like that. But you always look for that one guy or those people that are willing to put in that extra time and that they do it without complaint and they do it because they want to do it. And that's what, being a police officer is a lifestyle. It's not just a job. It's more. Comes from inside.
So how might you expand that practice? And would you try to recruit the people who are doing their 8 hours?
Show by example. Make it interesting. Make it fun. Nobody wants to do something that's boring or something that's miserable. Create an atmosphere that's, I wouldn't say entertaining, but making it something somebody would like to do, something that enjoys to do, something where they're not going to mind to come. They're gonna like to come to work. They're gonna like to be involved in that project or that job or whatever we're working on. But yeah, just making it, again, I don't want to use the word entertaining, but make it fun. Work can be fun sometimes, right, Doug?
Absolutely. First time you ever called me Doug in a straight face.
Douglas, I'm sorry.
I should be worried.
Oh my God. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. But yes.
Well, Thomas, we've reached the end of the questions.
Wow. Okay.
So do you have any questions for us, or is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't have any questions. The only thing I would like to add, again, we've heard it before, but I keep going back to my time and experience here in the last 23 years. And I'll say it, and I'll say it time and time again. I have been very fortunate, and I'm blessed to have had these opportunities, these different roles I've been able to serve within our police department. There's not a lot of police officers that are afforded those opportunities, and I think having them has given me the actual the knowledge, the experience, the real lifetime experience in all different aspects of law enforcement. That gives you the know-how and the ability to lead others. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. As we grow, as we get older, our leaders, our mentors, are leaving. With Bobby leaving, it's actually pretty big with me. Bob and I have worked together since I was just a young rookie. I've learned so much from him, and now he's leaving. I don't know what we're going to do. I hope he's going to have his cell phone when he's away. But I'm confident. I've had a great teacher, and now it's an obligation to pass that on to the other officers. So, I really believe after 23, almost 24 years of this job that I'm ready to do that. Onward and upward.
Absolutely. Mrs. Gale?
I am just finishing those notes and I'm good with my questions.
Well,
Very
thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you very
Well
much.
done, sir.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thomas?
Thank you. See you. Sir?
Good, or take a break?
I'm good,
Okay,
if you are.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Continuing in the alphabetical order of things, Sergeant Michael Taggart.
Say it's getting warm?
What's that?
Did you say it's getting warm? Did you say it's getting warm?
No, I'm timing you.
We're doing good.
Yeah, 34 minutes the first one, 32 minutes the second one.
Jeez, about that. Very good. Now I'm gonna have to drag it out.
Oh, you're not.
No.
We're being faster. We know the questions
No,
now.
absolutely. And thank God they're not 6-part questions like last time.
Okay.
Someone smart enough.
Two.
That was crazy. You had to take notes after notes after notes just to answer a question.
No one did.
I noticed that, yes.
That was part of the test.
Sure.
How are you, sir?
Welcome back. Hello.
Sure. Sergeant Taggart, how are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
We're good. We got about 11 questions for you. Actually, not about, exactly 11 questions for you.
Unless there's a follow-up.
We have 11 questions for you. Once we get through those questions, you'll have ample opportunity to ask any questions or make any statements that you'd like to make. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
You got enough water? You ready to go? Okay. Mrs. Gale.
All right. How have you prepared yourself to become a leader in the Southwick Police Department?
Throughout my career, I've always strived to do the best I can and be as dependable as possible. That being said, I've started my journey to this in kindergarten. I drew a picture that said I want to be a police officer with a police car on it. But in all seriousness, I figured out early in my high school career kind of like what I wanted to do. We had a police officer that was in our church. Very nice man, well respected in town, great mentor to me. And I decided to go for criminal justice in college, received my bachelor's degree in that. During that time, I did a internship with the Portsmouth Police Department in Rhode Island, where I was later hired as a full-time police officer. I met my wife in college. She's from out here. So ultimately, it's what brought me to here at this point. So education would be one. My ability to organize things well, complete tasks in a timely manner, be that dependable go-to person for my superiors and things like that, and be a trusted person that if something's told to me that it can stay with me, or if a task needs to get done or someone needs to be told to do something, I've shown that I can do that. I've always volunteered for extra duties, starting with child seat and elder affairs officer in Portsmouth. Coming up to here, I helped with creating forms so we could report things such as sudden deaths, things like that. I first became a defensive tactics instructor to further myself and our officers to help the citizens here and make sure that we use the correct use of force, de-escalation skills, and things like that, starting in 2010 or 9. And in 2013, I became one of the department's firearms instructors. I furthered myself in that, becoming a lead, which is able to teach an academy class. So I can go and actually teach an academy class firearms and get them certified as a police officer through that. As a sergeant, I was now in charge of the field training program, training our new officers, getting our officers that are field trainers, make sure they're all coordinated, reviewing their daily observation reports, getting their attendance in. We also have an ACADIS program, which is now the post certification. I've recently took over the firearms portion of that for Lieutenant Banish, where I put the attendance in for everybody. I make sure that all of the qualifications are in and submit that through them for our yearly certification. I think also my ability to develop relationships with people. I've really worked on that. And I can joke around with somebody or we can be serious. It depends on what the situation calls for. And really, they get to know me, I get to know them. And that happens with everything, with our officers, with students, with citizens. If they feel comfortable and really feel that you're engaged with them, you'll get more cooperation overall. That's pretty much what I have.
Sergeant Taggart, what are 2 faults or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
My personal?
2 faults or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
I would say for my weaknesses personally in that, it would be making sure that we're putting down in writing when one of our officers does a good thing out in the field and things like that. I'm marking that down, as well as ensuring that I'm keeping on task with what I need to do at the same time. Sometimes things get a little bit jumbled, and when you're overtaxed and knowing how much you can do or can't do, you need to take the time and really sort out what is more important.
What was your greatest failure and what did you learn from the experience?
I would say learning to, I would say, take rejection with grace. There was one time where a promotion was done and I didn't take it with as much grace as I should have. And I believe I had this conversation with someone. And I learned a lot about myself, how I should hold myself to my standards and not allow other people or anything to determine who I am or how I behave. And I really put a lot of my energy back into my task that I was tasked with at that time and went further as far as I could to put all my energy into something positive.
What are three of the most important values that you demonstrate as a leader? And please provide examples of each of these in practice.
Okay, so three items that I would like to as a leader. I believe our community policing is a huge thing to demonstrate. I like to get out and, park your cruiser, walk through Big Y, walk through a store, go up to Wally Park when there's a game going on. If you're on day shift, go through the school and other things like that. Really get out there and have people see you. And I tell officers, this is what I'd like to see, not just car stop, not just this. We have to do a whole bunch of things that really develops our relationship with the town and its citizens. Another one is admitting when you make a mistake and owning it. Lieutenant Banish and Chief Landis can tell you that if I make a mistake, I'm on the phone with them minutes later, or if I feel that something has gone not the way I wanted to, I call them right away and say, this is what I have, or I'll ask for advice and things like that. And how I teach my people to do that is to be reflective. When we have a scene, if it ends well, great. It usually does, because how we worked with things, but we also reflect on how we could have done things better and what we can improve on. A third is being direct and having people know exactly what you expect of them. And I believe I show that by having a distinct set of requests that I have officers do on a daily shift. And I allow them to have their input as well back to me if they see something else that they would like to do as well.
Santa?
Mm-hmm.
Please describe the role of technology in law enforcement.
It's come a long way, from the call box, walking up post, to MDTs and getting things back. It's had a positive and negative effect, I think, because as much technology we have, you find people, a lot that were newer, that if you don't if you don't have the technology available to you, it's like, oh my God, I can't do my job. Where sometimes it's paper and you're just relying on what they give you in hand, if it's active or not. It's a great tool to have. We have as much information as possible if it's used correctly. I think just like everything else, if you're not using your communication services, that to their best. I think it's just as good as you make it. Um,
Okay.
go ahead.
As a leader in the police department, you must often build support for goals and projects. Describe a situation that demonstrated your ability to build the necessary support.
With the school district itself, as the SRO, we had a few things and tasks that needed to get done. One was the emergency response, where we need to have evacuation or lockdown, things like that. So we had to get everybody on board. Some people or some of the staff wasn't totally on board with it. You know, it's one of those things, it's a scary thing to think about. But they found that we had training for all our teachers. A lot of concern was, are we going to get written up or things like that if we don't do it correctly? And that's not what it was about. Explaining the situation to them, really going and seeing different school districts in how they did it. I brought that information back. I talked to teachers in different school districts that were already implementing it and asked them how they felt about it and what helped them get past the nervousness of possibly being written up and things like that. And I brought that back to our staff and spoke to them. It was just developing relationships too. The first thing I did before even starting that was I went in and I developed relationships with the admin, this school itself's admin, principals, the teachers, so they knew me well before I asked anything of them. I think that's a big thing, because if you start a relationship on a negative, it'll be very hard to make it a positive on that one. We also had a Stop the Bleed that was in Colton. That some people were very nervous about Stop the Bleed and going hands-on with things like that, but we got everybody in the school district done without any pushback at all, because they saw how much work was going into it, how much effort I put into it, and my zeal towards it really influenced them to really go above and beyond to help themselves. And it helped, if anything happened outside school to their children, they realized it would help their family members as well.
Please describe the processes and considerations that you would use to maintain officer morale and to avoid burnout.
I think a lot of that comes with, just like we were talking about, with mental health. You have a lot of practices that the MPTC has really focused on this year. They were recommending rejuvenation rooms for, I think there's a different term for it, but where every now and then you can go and you can sit down, reflect, have a calming room, things like that. Another thing is making sure that people have all of the things they need and debrief after situations. I think a lot of people do better with talking, some don't. But I think that's a big issue with that one. We need to foster a different style, because there's other officers on duty, including myself, that we trudge on and we move on. That's just how we've learned to do it. And we need to be acknowledgeable or cognizant of that the newer officer and different people deal with things differently. We need to give them the tools to succeed, whether that be a SISM, which is the someone that's on a police or fire department can come in and talk with us and debrief afterwards, or at some point maybe getting a consultant that's a licensed psychologist or something like that. They can come in if they really need help and push that forward, so we don't have a month or whatever of them sitting and floundering. We really get them the help they need, things like that. I think that would help a lot with burnout.
Good. Can you provide an example of where you took the initiative to propose a new program, modify a policy or practice, or similar project, and how you went about it?
I hate to harp on it, but I'm going back to the school. I started that whole program from start to finish with lockdown to reunification with parents. Part of that was the go bag system that are in each room here and in every school classroom, office space where auditorium and such, where during a lockdown or emergency, there are life-saving measures in each bag to get this. That's no worries. In order to facilitate that, I had to work with Representative Boldiga to get grants. We ended up getting $150,000 in grants, which went to go bags and updating every school's security system, where now they can be seen in their remote from the police department, where we can see everything outside, which was the goal for us. In emergencies, we can see everything inside as well. And it was a lot of task. I asked for a lot of help. And it's funny you brought that and bring this up because I was thinking the other night driving around about my friend Jim Ash. He passed away recently, and he's the one that put the letters on that. He worked for the school and he did it on his own time with nothing to expect.
On the go bag?
You're satisfied with the results of both of those?
Sure.
How would you create consensus and shared purpose in a situation where all parties originally differed in opinion, approach, and objectives?
I think that comes down to really communicating and giving your view, but also respecting other people's view. Knowing that you can't be as arrogant to think that every way that you do things is the right way. Just because you don't get to that same spot the same way doesn't mean it's not correct. And if you try to do everything yourself, you're going to have very little cooperation, I find. I believe if you allow people to have their input, come up with ideas, and if it meets the purpose that you want it to meet, and people are good with it, and you have input and cooperation, go with it.
The needs of the officers, the department as a whole, and all other agencies must be met in a thorough and timely manner. Please explain your processing and organizational skills that will ensure an effective and timely response when faced with multiple concerns and deadlines.
Well, I think my organization is fairly good. I'm in charge of the FTO program. I also am in charge of the reserve, and I have to do my patrol duties as well. So that comes with approving reports, getting to the lieutenant, reviewing DORs, things like that, so it can be viewed. I'm making recommendations, being on the scene, making decisions there as well. You have to be able to divide and conquer on some things. You can't just sit down and think you're going to get everything done in one time, because as soon as I sit down, just like these past few nights, I'm getting back up and going on the road, because sometimes there's two officers, me and one officer, or there's three, depending. Recently, we've had some people out with pregnancies and stuff like that. So we were at full staff for a while, and it was great. I was doing supervisor stuff. It was awesome. And now I'm back on doing my normal patrol duties with my other officers, which is keeps me in check too. But I think it's just being able to delegate some stuff as well, and really get your tasks and prioritize. I think prioritization is just a huge thing on that one, and really keep a note or log of what you have to do. I find the more you take on, the less your brain can remember. I never really got it until now. Now I know how the chief feels.
Are you a believer in cross-training to fill gaps and for succession planning?
Absolutely. I believe we've kind of demonstrated that. The current chief and the chiefs before, we used to have 1 to 2 firearms instructors. Now we have 4. That way, I was out injured during one of our major upticks with our new pistols that we got. And if it was me and one other person, we couldn't have run that program. So that's one of the things where I think we're really moving forward But there's other places that we need to do that with. That comes with computers. It comes with your drones. It comes with your dive team and everything like that. But it's all about who we have for volunteers, how much money we have, assets, and all. Becoming a drone operator is no easy task. You've got to become the FAA certified and things like that. So you have to pick the right people, and it takes time. But I think we're getting there slowly but surely.
There's a follow-up to that. How do you think you might be able to expand those practices?
So you just have to develop a plan on one is when the trainings are available. So we have to start out in selecting who has interest in it, when we're going to be able to get them into a class. And once that happens, we got to look at our staffing and things like that to make sure that we're not burdening our staff anymore, because we don't want burnout because we're sending people everywhere and burdening everybody else just to get one thing when we have some people already. So there's a lot of aspects to that.
Okay.
Before we get to the last part, I do want to thank you for giving me the statement of qualifications to ease the select board's burden in reviewing applicants' qualifications and how you meet the minimum preferred requirements for lieutenant position. I just wanted to call that one out.
My pleasure.
That was special. Thank you.
My mom always said I was special.
That completes the question part of this deal. Are there any questions that you have for us or anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't have questions. There was one thing I was watching the other day, and I don't know if anybody knows the author Shelby Foote. He's most notably known for the Civil War trilogy that Ken Burns did a video on for PBS. And he said an author sees what he intended to put and what he has put on his books. And I see what I intended to put and what I put on here. And I realize that there's not everything about me is in here. Not everything that I am capable of is in here. But just like everything else, whatever I am chosen to do or am doing, I will always do to the best of my ability for everyone.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Hold on, sir.
Thank you.
I talk fast.
I have but one sheet of paper left.
I have one letter left, alphabetically.
That Sergeant Michael Westcott.
I have to refer back, so I see that. I just don't want to run it over in the chair. Didn't forget how to do it, but I just really
Official
check.
start date for the new, was there an official end date? From the old?
For this, it's on the agenda for
Good.
later processing, sir.
Good.
But he's getting quite good at this. I heard he's taking his act on the road and doing it all over the Commonwealth.
That's what I heard.
Sergeant?
Do I call you chief or whatever that works, Mike?
How are you?
Welcome back.
Are you only sit in front of the?
Wherever you'd like, sir.
Spotlight, yeah.
Do I have to sit in the front?
You could sit wherever you want, sir.
I'm just kidding.
All right, you're not very decisive.
No, I am. It's good.
Sergeant, how are you tonight?
Good, sir.
You ready?
I am.
Okay, we have like 11 questions for you.
That's good.
And then you'll have ample opportunity to ask any questions of us or add anything that you'd like to add that you felt that we missed. Or make any other statements that you'd like to make.
Sounds good.
You ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mrs. Gale?
Okay, how have you prepared yourself to become a leader in the Southwick Police Department?
So
since I started with the police department, actually even before that, I started with the fire department. I was there for 10 years, worked through stuff there, came over to the police department, worked my way up to the sergeant's position, always taking on extra roles between the K9 dive team, medical, FTO, field training officer. It's always been adding up. I went back to school. I just completed, as of Thursday, I completed my master's degree in public administration.
Congrats.
So that was all accepted Thursday. I'll have the paperwork. I've got a letter today for you
Excellent.
from the school saying that I'll have the actual diploma. And that's with a track of criminal justice administration. So it's always been furthering my education, doing whatever I could to go to the next step.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Why did you leave the fire department to come to the police
Couldn't let it
department?
go.
Well, they weren't full-time back then. So I've always kind of wanted to go police. Back in high school, I did wasn't an internship. It was a week-long program with the state police, Junior State Police Academy through the VFW. I went there for a week, and ever since I know, I've always wanted to be a cop. The fire department was nice. Got me that sidestep and worked my way to here.
Perfect. Thank you. What are two faults or weaknesses in your current administrative duties, and how will you work to improve on those?
So I think one of the biggest faults I have right now is I wear a lot of hats. So I'm divided quite a bit between K9, dive team, medical, being on the road as a supervisor, trying to balance all that. The great thing about it is working with the younger guys, the up and coming people of the department. They are ready to take over those positions, and my training and experience in them can really benefit me in helping them take over my roles that I've had. Another weakness is I try to make everybody happy. And as a supervisor, sometimes you just can't make people happy, and you got to go with what has to be done. And I've been working on that quite a bit. And if you have to speak up, you have to speak up and tell them what you expect.
What was your greatest failure, and what did you learn from the experience?
Greatest failure. Ooh. That's a tough one. Greatest failure. That's one you got to think about. A recent one was there was a young man in the department, and I didn't approach him how I should. So even with my kids, this is what it is. This paper is not good. We have to rewrite it. I should have taken softer approach with him. I pretty much said, hey, we need to go back through this report. But I told him it was not good, and instantly he shut down. And it was very hard to get back to him and talk to him like, hey, this is why it's not good. And I think that put a little wedge between us for a while. We got over it, and I think he sees my side of it and I see his, but I think just how I approached him was a failure on my part, not recognizing that he needs a different approach than other guys. I think that's a recent one that I've had.
What are three of the most important values that you demonstrate as a leader? And please provide examples of each of these in practice.
Compassion, family first, and just honesty. Compassion, you do what you can to help not only the people you're working for, but the people you're working with, but the people out in the community. So you got to do whatever you can, even if it's a burden on you. me and my family have taken somebody in hard times, and it was great. I met the person through, or met the child through work, had a tough call, and we were able to take him in.
That's compassion.
Family is important above anything else. If guy needs help with his family or whatever's going on, you got to go help them. And they know that, all my guys know that family comes first. If you got something going on at home, take care of that first, because it's going to bleed over to work, and everything's got to be good. See, I said honesty. So
Good.
if you're not honest in this job, you don't need to be in the job. You have to be able to back up everything you do and everything you say. Without honesty and integrity, you don't belong in police work. So I'll never stretch anything. I'll never go beyond what actually happened.
Please describe the role of technology in law enforcement.
Technology is huge. And it's not just like all the bells and whistles stuff. Simply our computer systems. We're getting better, but a lot of times our guys get frustrated with just our equipment that we have. Just the basic equipment is lacking. It's just that little frustration just builds and builds and builds. Some of our computers take forever to log in, and then you have to log into 4 different accounts to get one thing done. So even just the small stuff builds up. But other technology, we would love to get plate readers. Try to catch these stolen cars coming through, get a heads up on them. Helps us identify things if we have an issue. Some of the systems we looked at, like the flock camera, is great, but it's really expensive. We just found another one at the last show we went to that kind of does what flock does. If we have a major incident and we need to look for a red car, we can get this camera system and just type in red cars with bumper stickers, and it'll filter out all of the traffic. And now we can identify that red car and hopefully get a plate or anything else. We just found a system that does that for fairly cheap money. And it's something that we may be able to write a grant for. So that's what that's an angle I would love to play. Try to do a Homeland Security grant. I've talked to the Homeland Security director on it, and as long as we get a couple other towns to write in with it, I could probably write something in the next grant cycle to get us each town a couple systems and go from there.
As a leader in the police department, you must often build support for goals and projects. Describe a situation that demonstrated your ability to build the necessary support.
So, like, one of my things is the medical department. We've always been able to work together and keep improving on it. We started with, hey, I had this idea of getting quick clot. I went to a tactical medical class, and then we were able to we got our hands on a package of it. We were able to reach out and go to Noble Hospital and get approval by our ER doc and actually get it written up so that we could start using it. Quick clot is for like stopping bleeds, tourniquets, that kind of stuff. But the quick clot is actually packing the wound. So to get that implemented, I had to jump through a bunch of steps. I went to the training, we brought it back through the department, and then we had to get approval through medical control to get it back in. We've always worked on improving medical, and that's one of the big projects. Mike Bridges is my assistant in it now. He is more than capable of taking it over. But he's worked with me quite a bit to bring more up-to-date medical equipment and scenarios to training and put it out in the field. And the guys have really taken to the tactical medical portion that we're offering now.
Please describe the process processes and considerations that you would use to maintain officer morale and to avoid burnout?
So I think one of the biggest things that I would like to improve on is communication. Over everything that I've seen people complain about, it's usually a game of telephone. Right now, we have an open door policy, which is great. Anybody can go to the lieutenant, anybody can go to the chief and ask them a question. The only thing I see with that is that person comes back and gives their side of the story. What I would love to do is what the fire department does. They have a group huddle where one of the command staff or both of the command staff every morning or each roll call goes down for 5 minutes. Hey, what do you guys need? How's it going today? How's your family? What's going on that I can help you with to improve your job? So I think just that interaction will help morale, will help everything, because literally it all boils down to communication. Every gripe that I've got a little book of gripes that I call it. Every time I get a gripe, I write it down in my cruiser. Every one of them comes down to communication. It's something that a guy misconstrued or was brought back from somebody else and they can't believe why this is being done. And instead of just taking care of it, it just festers. And where if we could just go down and talk to them, it'd be a lot better.
Can you provide an example where you took the initiative to propose a new program, modify a policy or practice, or a similar project, and how you went about it?
So for our dive team, one of our biggest problems is our lake. You can't see anything when you dive in it. They're not the best, not the most pleasant thing to dive in. We always have to call in somebody else for side scan and imaging so that we know where to dive to locate any victims or anything else underwater. What I did is I researched different grants. I wrote a grant through Homeland Security and was able to get a $60,000 ROV unit that does side scan and videos, everything. It's got lights, it's got everything. So now we can help us and help communities around here. We got a small team that works it. And anytime there's an issue, we get the team out and we can go out and assist other towns and ourselves in locating any victims.
How would you create consensus and shared purpose in a situation where all parties originally differed in opinion, approach, and objectives?
So law enforcement isn't democracy, unfortunately. Someone's got to take charge, but you have to consider all sides. So depending on what it is, you have to see where each person's coming from. And if you're talking within the department, you have to talk to each of your guys, see where they're coming from, what they need. And honestly, we all work together very well. Once we see each other's side, we can work it together very well. We do this a lot on the street, a lot of our domestic calls, a lot of everything else, where literally they're being peacekeepers. We're talking to both sides and trying to find common ground. That's all we do all day long, 90% of the time.
Okay.
The needs of the officers, the department as a whole, and all other agencies must be met in a thorough and timely manner. Please explain your processing and organizational skills that will ensure an effective and timely response when faced with multiple concerns and deadlines.
And so that's the biggest thing right now. Like I said, I juggle a lot and I get it all done. Being able to narrow that down and to just focus on, we have our training, we have all the lieutenant's responsibilities, being able to bring that all together. The thing that Rhett uses, the programs that he uses is great. The calendar invites so that everything gets charted. I think we can use that quite a bit and really chart everything down and put it together. It's just everyday work. You can get it done.
Are you a believer in cross-training to fill gaps and for succession planning?
Yeah, cross training is huge. Everybody, right now we have groups of guys that wear multiple hats, and we've got a whole new crew of younger guys, everybody should get something. We have to find their strengths, their weaknesses, build on their weaknesses, and capitalize on their strengths. All of our guys have a lot of potential. They have a lot of desire, and we can easily train them up to what they want. I know the chief and the lieutenant put out a email not too long ago asking what everybody wants to do. We can follow up on that list and really start narrowing down and getting people into those programs, even if they're just backups for now, because eventually those backups take over.
That's all 11.
Was that the fastest?
I don't know. I have to check with my timekeeper. Do you have any questions for us or anything that you'd like to add?
So I wrote, it's only like 6 pages long, so it should only take like 10 minutes.
We still got time on you, I think.
I'm just kidding.
That's been done before.
I know.
Take your time.
I began my service to this town and its residents in 1999 when I became a volunteer firefighter and EMT. I served in that role for over 10 years before, as they call it, I switched to the dark side. Those years of service on the fire department gives me a unique perspective on responding to calls and planning for major events, helping with the coordination and collaboration between agencies. In 2006, I began my work with the police department and became a sergeant in September of 2019. As a patrol sergeant on the road, I have direct supervision responding with the men and women of this department to calls. This direct interaction with the officers has given me a different perspective as a supervisor and has also shown them how I respond and expect responses to calls. On top of working patrol, I have always taken an extra responsibility within the department. I am currently in charge of the medical program, K-9 program, and dive team. I'm an FTO and an instructor. These positions have given me a look into the budgeting, procuring, and management of department personnel and equipment. Through the K-9 program and dive team, I have traveled throughout Western Mass and beyond. I have responded to and worked major incidents and operations and have networked with multiple agencies, including state, local, and federal. I have also been able to offset the cost of these programs through grant writing. To date, I have written or been a part of writing grants totaling over $200,000, much of which came through Homeland Security. With my experience in these roles and working with the up-and-coming officers of this department, I am confident in the officers who are ready to take over these positions, and it gives me great experience to support them in their new roles. I have also served the officers of the department as a former president of the union. Thankfully, I found people to take that over. And currently, I am the president of the association. As a union president, I was involved in union negotiations, which gave me a behind-the-scenes look into the interactions between the town and the union. It also gave me a view of how officer complaints and recognitions are identified and investigated by the lieutenant. As the association president, I am working on bringing the department members closer together. Last year, we started the kids' Christmas party in conjunction with the fire department. And this year, I'm hoping to start a yearly picnic at the end of the summer for everybody to enjoy. While doing all this, I was able, as of last Thursday, to officially complete my master's degree in public administration with a concentration in criminal justice administration. Thank you for taking the time to interview me and the other candidates, and I look forward to hearing your decisions. How many copies of the paper?
Anything else you wish to add?
That's it.
Well, thank you very much. You did an excellent job, and congratulations on that degree.
Thank you. A lot of work.
Thanks, Mike.
Well,
Okay, I'm going to propose we take a 5-minute recess and come back, and we can get the whole band back together in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, we're coming back. First thing is we're going to acknowledge payables warrant number 2427B dated 5/13/2024 in the amount of $435,066.32. Acknowledge payroll warrant number 2424 dated 5/21 in the amount of $334,531.40. And acknowledge, and we're going to table the minutes from 5/13 and exec session from 5/16 and 5/22 until our next meeting. With no objection if they're
None.
okay. Okay, next order of business is to ratify the agreement with Nicole Parker as Chief Administrative Officer for fiscal year 25 to 27 and approve a 3-year appointment through June 30th of 2027, and subject to final review by labor attorney. I believe the start date would be June 17th. I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
It's a roll call vote, please. Doug Moglen, yes?
Jason Perone, yes.
Diane Gale,
Okay. We didn't really have a meeting in open session to discuss this, so we're going to designate one select board member for an economic incentive project. I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and then after that meeting, I can report back to the board and we can, if necessary, designate one of the select board members to work on that project. It is not some ginormous industrial project before it gets out of control.
Just that.
Okay,
so do we need to,
I kind of designated myself because I took a meeting for
no
tomorrow.
objection.
So,
No objection.
okay. And then, as is customary after elections, the board typically reorganizes itself. So we are at that part of the agenda right now. So at this point, I'd entertain a motion to select or appoint a chairperson to the select board for the coming year.
I will make a motion to elect Jason as the chair.
I will second the motion. Roll call vote. Doug Moglen, yes?
I'm gonna abstain.
Diane Gale, aye.
Okay. It was also customary for folks to move their chairs around. If you'd like to do that, we can. Mr. Chairman.
We can just hang for today. We don't have
Okay.
to play musical chairs right now.
Okay. The agenda is
Your
yours.
agenda's mine, all right. So I guess now we have to assign select board members to Capcom, LEPC, and the other duties.
Mr. Chairman, we have to elect a vice chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we need to entertain a motion to elect a vice chair,
I'd like to nominate Diane Gale as vice chair of the select board.
and I will second that motion. Roll call vote.
You did.
Jason Perone, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
And I guess now we need to make a motion to appoint the clerk of the select board.
I'll make a motion to appoint Doug. Are you wearing that shirt underneath?
No, I'm not.
I will second that motion. Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
All right. Warrant signatures, delegation for payroll and payables warrants.
Well, now we're on the Capcom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Assign select board members, Capcom, LEPC, and other duties. So, Mr. Mogul, I'd like to make a motion to keep you in Capcom.
Second,
Roll call vote, Officer Perone. Jason Perone, aye.
the other half.
The other job.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
We need a motion to appoint someone to LEPC.
Do you want to continue in that role?
I will gladly continue in that role.
I'll second that.
No, you have
I'll
to
make that motion.
I get to second them
You
now.
get to second now. This will take a while.
And roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
And what other duties were on that list?
Usually,
Is there a list?
I know in the past, like liaisons to like the PD and stuff like that, like it's public safety, was it?
Can someone check that from last time around? And-
I know there's been other ones, yeah, that
Yeah.
popped up, so.
Yeah.
So, let's see, so next we need to warrant signatures for delegation for payroll and payables warrants.
You nominate the chair to sign the
sorry.
payables warrants
Yes, I'll nominate Jason to sign the payables warrants
and the payroll warrant.
and the payroll warrants. And then-
Second,
And I'm just gonna abstain. So,
So-
roll call vote, Jason Perone, abstain.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
All right, authorized chair to handle year-end municipal modernization act transfers between line items and FinCom reserve requests through 6/30/2024. Need a motion?
We have to go back to one in a second then. So I will make a motion to authorize the chair to handle municipal modernization act transfers and FinCom requests through 6/30/24.
Second,
Roll call vote. Jason Perone abstain.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Now we need to authorize chair CAO for hiring approvals and all other personnel actions below department head level. Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Doug Mogul will second.
Roll call vote. Jason Perone abstain.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
We need to acknowledge the police fire review of White Street safety for continuous no parking signs. Chief, any sort of update on that? I did notice that it's not 10 inches to 14 inches.
Oh, typo, sorry about that, but this has been reviewed, there's some dock space down there and the road, if you're all fairly familiar with, is extremely narrow and doesn't really allow for on-street parking. Fire chief also went down, assessed it. There are some parking signs right as you transition onto the beginning of White Street, but they don't continue. I'm not sure why that happened at any point in time. It should have just been something all the way down to the end of the road. There's no exit. So we're requesting the board to support for public safety reasons, no on-street parking at all, to the end. And I spoke with the highway superintendent Brown, who they'll do the rest if this is something that you guys would support.
Does anybody talk to the residents? Is it gonna cause any sort of problems or anything like that?
No, a lot of them actually would like it. I mean, they understand that it probably would create a hardship at times when they have guests. There is some places that you still can park, but I think also with the additional population that are utilizing the docks down there, it potentially could create an on-street parking issue. So we're trying to get ahead of it.
Looks like they all have pretty decent length driveways. The residents there.
Yeah, some sort of.
Yeah, the property continues to this side of the street. It does bring up a concern conservation wise, when you start parking the cars on that close to the water's edge, like some do.
Mhm.
That's just something, conservation is gonna have to address if that becomes an issue. But right now we're dealing with the street.
Well, this car was parked illegally on the street too.
I know, I had it towed. I had to walk back too.
It was for illustrative purposes. He was sitting in it. You just can't see.
I
that.
see.
It was idling. I have no problem with it.
I'm none either.
Is a vote necessary as road commissioners or is this just,
I think we're just
I
acknowledging.
think it would be an agreement. I mean, may not hurt to have that on record.
I would entertain a motion as road commissioners to approve the no parking signs on White Street.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
So we need to next approve the Hamden County Sheriff's Department Marine Unit members to be added as Southwick Reserve Police Officers in accordance with the MOA between the town of Southwick and the Hamden County Sheriff's Office. See attached list of officers. There's nothing particular.
Just housekeeping, just to keep up our current agreement that we started a few years ago with the Marine unit to help on the lake to fill some of the voids that we, because of staffing that we have problems with, and they certainly want to keep doing that.
Yes, I see them out there quite a bit. So I would entertain a motion to approve the Hamden County Marine Unit members added to the Reserve Police Force.
I'll make that motion.
I believe you have to read their names, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. So we're going to approve the addition of Sean Hemingway, Jeffrey Anger, Nicole Sadie, John Kook, Harry Hill, Anthony Aiklin, Mark Gee, John Mascaro, Crystal Sanchez, Richard Patry, Hector Perez, Sean McClelland, Jarek Kanopko, Peter Sackrider, Christopher Grimshaw, Ross Hankey, Andrew Poirier, William Kennedy, Tori Sullivan, Joe Assad, and Marcus Edmund. So now entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Doug Mogul will second the motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
So next we need to approve the request for Robert DeLandis and Jeremiah Kane to be considered for appointment as traffic control officers, TCOs, effective July 1st, 2024. You have no problem with that oncoming chief?
I did actually submit a addendum to that today, status change for Chief Landis from his original intent of the TCO to becoming a reserve instead. Jeremiah King would stay at the traffic control or move to traffic control.
He's aging out, right?
Yes.
So there will be a new one next week.
You should have once today.
So we'll do it without, or do it now.
You could make
Can do it that
two
way.
motions.
All right, we will make the motion to approve Chief Landis as a reserve officer for the oncoming Chief Banish's request once we actually see it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll gladly second the motion.
Jason Perone, roll call vote, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
And I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Jeremiah Kane as a traffic control officer effective July 1st, 2024.
Make that motion.
Second.
Jason Perone, roll call vote, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I think it starts now, but I didn't say the date.
July 1st. He has other obligations until then.
We'll see.
Thank you for catching that, Mr. Didi. Next, we need to approve the request for Sergeant Paul A. Miles to be appointed as a reserve officer effective June 9th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
I'll gladly second the motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, aye.
So we need to acknowledge and approve the chair to sign the CDBG grant extension. Do we need to do anything where your name is on these?
You could designate the clerk to sign.
Okay.
because my name's already pre-printed on it. That's gonna happen for a couple of months, my
Okay.
friend.
So we need to acknowledge and approve the chair, but we're actually gonna have I'm gonna make a motion to have the clerk sign this.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Oh, so your signature, no, conference,
I think this one's the same.
Same thing.
So we need to, I'm going to make a motion to have the clerk sign off on the chair. Or excuse me, sign off the PVPC agreement between the town of Southwick for the fiscal year 2022-2023 award.
Make that motion.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we need to approve the deposit of a $10 cash donation into the library gift account. I would entertain a motion.
Motion made.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we need to approve the hiring of Mayor Alos. Oh, I got also here and Alos there. So, but I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve the hiring of
Yes,
Mayor Also or Alos, whichever it actually is. To fill the temporary summer library page position for 18 hours and start date the last week of June.
I'll make that motion.
second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we need to approve the promo ad for the graduating class of 2024 to be published in the June 15th edition of the Westfield News for $80 to come out of the select board gift account. I know this is a thing that we normally do. So, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
All right. We need to approve waiving the fees for RDA and signed permit for 49 South Long Yard Road to have the 3 trees removed from the shoreline for Conservation Commission. And those are those trees in question that we've been talking about for a year.
Or more.
And they were a topic of a media story this week, so.
Today. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this has been gone back and forth between police chief, the harbor master, myself, this board, and various iterations of the Conservation Commission over the last couple of years. And discussing this with Ms. Pooler a week or two ago, the conservation was kind of hanging their hat on who owns the land or who's responsible for it. Under the deed, it's the people of the town of Southwick. Certainly the select board are indeed members of that class. And they felt, the Conservation Commission felt it would be a conflict for them to actually submit an RDA to themselves. So therefore the select board is going to, I'm suggesting that the select board be the applicant for the RDA itself in order to continue this process on behalf of the residents of the town of Southwick, to put this in front of conservation to take the next step to having those unwell trees taken care of.
And this is to waive the fees.
And they are going to waive the fees because the town itself being an applicant.
So I will make a motion to waive the fees on that RDA for the tree removal.
And to submit this to the Conservation Commission, correct?
And sign the permit. Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Dangle, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we need to approve and sign the Commonwealth of Massachusetts DCR grant for the Hydrilla project grant for the lakes Mr. Morgan, I'm gonna make a motion that, you sign off on this since you're on this one as well. Or I'll entertain that motion.
Am I on this one again?
Only as.
Oh, no, never mind, it's the
the
email.
Contact manager,
Motion for the chair to sign.
second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
thank God.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Is this the, do we have the official one somewhere?
It's on.
It's on the counter. This is for the hydrilla, right?
Yeah.
And this is a federal grant coming through the Commonwealth, I believe.
So. Last action item is we need to approve the Southwick Animal Control Shelter donations for $1,200 from. D. Cormier, Weathersfield, Connecticut for $25. A. DeFeo, Westfield, Mass, $25. A and S Fairley, Southwick, Mass, $50. D and G Gabonell, Westerly, Rhode Island, $50. G Keaton, Sarasota, Florida, $500. R Kramer, Feeding Hills, Mass, $100. E Levitt, Southwick, Mass, $100. C and D Picacha, Orlando, Florida, $100. L and T Stapleton, Southwick, Mass, $100. E Samansky, Enfield, Connecticut, $50. And S and J Viamari, Southwick, Mass, $100.
Make a motion to approve those donations.
Doug Mogul, second.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
So new business. So new business, we need to approve the application for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Water Resources for cybersecurity improvements in the amount of $27,000, $765.10. Is around here somewhere, right, online?
Question on this? There are two in our folder with two different amounts, but the application appears to be the same application, just two different amounts. And the one on the counter to be signed
There's two different dates as well.
is the May 14th, yeah.
Mr. Brown's on Zoom.
It's the $27,000 item. That's
27 is fixed.
So this is the
the
old one.
higher of the two.
Okay, 25 is on the counter though, Jason.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy.
Randy, you just want to give an update on what this actually is in case people are interested?
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail for security reasons, but we do have some equipment that is at its end of life. And through this grant, we're looking to replace that equipment through this cybersecurity improvement grant with Mass DEP.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve the application for the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection Bureau cybersecurity improvements in the amount of $27,765.10.
I'll make that motion.
Doug Mogul, second.
Roll call vote, Jason Perone, aye.
Van Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we need to approve the fiscal year 25 transfer station sticker rates.
Can I ask one quick question regarding that cybersecurity grant?
Yes, sir.
There is a space for one person to sign. Would that be the chair or Mr. Mogul?
I guess that's going to be me now
Be
since
the
I'm the
chairman.
chair, so. This one is not on the counter right now.
The 25 is on the counter. You
Just
need,
put this
you need a
in
new
there.
one.
All right, so back to approving the fiscal year 25 transfer station sticker rates. Raising fees. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, Randy. I mean, costs went up.
Yeah, I gave you a little synopsis of the revenue and expenses for the past, it looks like 8 years or so. Last year, there was a fairly substantial increase in the rates. That was primarily due to an increase in our new trash contract. So there every year if you're looking at the solid waste division as a whole, we run in a deficit, and that deficit covered by the general fund. So the question I usually have for the board is, what would you like to see that deficit reduced? And if not, then this year, we can expect to see maybe a 5% increase in rates. But if you would like to further reduce that deficit, then you should discuss a bigger increase in the rates.
I can't reduce them both.
I have a suggestion.
I'm all ears.
At 5%, the regular fee would be $168.
Mm-hmm.
I would propose just going to 170, a flat amount, 170. And I would like to see the senior rate stay at $95.
Did you do the math?
No.
No.
No, I just would like to see the senior rate stay at that. It is currently a 40% discount. That would make it a 44% discount, if we leave it where it is, over the regular rates.
We would see oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, sorry. And I would propose changing some of the one-time special fees as well. Looking at some other towns on the large item permits. Televisions and monitors, we currently have 20 based on other towns that go up to $50. Large TVs, $50. I'd say $35. Based on other towns, mattresses and box springs, $35. Refrigerators, freezers, dehumidifiers, they are in the $30 to $40 range. I'm sorry, to $50 range, and I would make that $40. Propane tanks, $10 based on the neighbors who do not have town trash pickup. And tires, many of the other towns do truck tires at a higher rate, so I would propose 10 for passenger and 20 for trucks and larger. I did not do the math because I don't know how many that is.
No,
But the one-off fees could help.
That was the one thing that came to my mind when I saw that.
And that can help keep the seniors where they are. Perhaps.
We sell we sell more senior stickers than we do regular stickers each year. We sell about 1,200 senior stickers and maybe 900 to 1,000 regular stickers a year. As far as those large item permits go, the costs that we have in there basically cover our costs. So if the mattresses cost $25, if our fee is $25, that's the cost of the town is $25. That's how they're all set up.
I would still raise them based on the going rate in other towns, if it were me. That's my suggestion.
Randy, we don't, I know it's quite crazy to ask, but we don't have any sort of estimate on any of these television. I mean, I know it's going to vary, so there's no way to really tell on that one.
In front of me, I don't have the number of permits that we sell on each of these categories.
Yeah.
The TV at $35 is still less than if you take it to the place in Westfield. It's $45 minimum there to dump a TV. I know I've done it a number of times.
Is this something that we could table and get some more background on and get your numbers down? Where you make a decision?
I kind of would want to get just to play with the numbers so we know what they are.
Randy, when do you need to have those rates set so you can have everything ready at the clerk's office? Because July 1st is not that far away.
I was hoping to have these set tonight so we could start selling next week.
I was thinking.
Well, our next meeting's 3rd, right?
Well, people are going to want to start buying stickers July 1st, technically, right?
Yeah. Actually, I was just looking at mine as I'm pulling the dump this weekend.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a big issue with any of it. The only thing I would be really careful with tires because those tend to end up in the wrong places at the wrong time if you make the prices, prohibitive. And a lot of this stuff, to be honest with you, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's probably, the reason why some of these prices are where they are.
We just went up on tires last year, so I think we were charging $4 per tire a year ago. And then we just went up to the $10 tire last year.
Randy, we don't get anything back for like when we recycle the TVs and all that stuff. That's straight. It costs us there's no recycling on any of that stuff.
There's a per ton fee it's a per ton fee on all these items. Our tires are per each. We do tires, and it was more for convenience purposes, the large and the small tires. Sometimes people will go online and they'll pay for, I could see someone trying to pay for a small tire online, but then they bring a large tire to the facility.
I wouldn't hassle over the tires. I would leave it at 10 if you buy into the rest.
I have no problem making the changes. I'm just like I said, they're set up to cover our expenses. Nothing more, nothing less.
But entirely in totality, it runs at a deficit.
Totality, yeah. Yeah, if you take everything else out, yeah. Yeah. These are our vendor costs.
I'd second their motion. No, I think you're fine. I'd second the motion and I'd leave the senior sticker alone.
You want to leave the tires?
Yeah, I'd leave the tires at
all the others as.
So TVs and monitors, 35. Do you want me to make this in a formal motion then?
Sure.
Okay. You said leave the senior rate, you agreed?
Yes.
What it is. Okay, so annual sticker fee, I'll make a motion to have the annual sticker fee be $170. Senior rate stays at $95. Televisions and monitors, $35. Mattresses and box springs, $35. Refrigerators, freezers, dehumidifiers, $40. Propane tanks, $10. And the rest remain as they are.
Second.
Roll call vote. Jason Perone, aye.
Dan Gilli.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Oh, Mr. Chair, do you mind if I say something real quick?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Not to go backwards here, but the White Street discussion about the traffic signs.
Yep.
I'm pretty certain that requires a public hearing.
We get
to change those signs.
Or might have to do a newspaper.
For no parking signs?
My research is that, yes.
When I guess we need to schedule a public hearing.
Fantastic.
Next meeting's what was the
They
schedule?
probably gotta let the CAO and the acting CAO figure out statutorily how long it's gotta run in the paper and all that stuff.
I believe it's 2 weeks.
So, I guess we're gonna
Carry that under old business.
Table that, right? The parking signs and get that figured out, which we need a public hearing. Thank you, Randy. So now we're on to old business. So this one I was excited about. We're going to acknowledge that we filed the Mass DPU for the Southwick Municipal Electric Aggregation Program. So it is now filed with the state. And now it's just a matter of going through the proper channels out in Boston, getting kicked back to us, and then the plan can get up and running. Hopefully, they're saying maybe September, October. So that's that. Diane, I know you were kind of working the South Pond Four Seasons things a lot.
Just an update. They had discussed this briefly at the last Conservation Commission meeting. Most of the commission, I think there was an email sent to us as well, right? Most of them didn't see where this was under their jurisdiction to have another site visit and dispute the state line as we discussed as well.
You gotta have it surveyed.
So I don't know where we want to go with it. There was one member who said he could go if we decided we were going to have another field trip, but I don't know what we're going to be able to do.
I mean, I read all the
either.
different red brown stone this and granite this and that. And everything seems to line up, but this seems to be kind of a back and forth between everything here.
Yeah, I mentioned I don't think it's our jurisdiction to have a battle over the state line either.
So if I may, as the police chief and public safety concern to that location, because I've seen it from both sides, it might be, and you're familiar with it as well. I think what's important here, being that it is a state line, our concern is jurisdictionally, where are we when we respond to a call there? So I think it's important to truly find out where that state line falls, just for that reason alone. How it affects the beaches there after that, then there'll be a fallout. I think it's important for Mr. Nolan and Jason as well to put some eyes on it to truly understand what we're looking at. So I think a site visit with the four of us would be worthwhile. And even the first selectman, again, because he was familiar with the project that happened when they were looking at putting in that drain.
I actually have to make contact with him about the LPP thing anyway, so.
Shouldn't take long, but I think it'd be good to actually be there.
Yeah, I mean,
So if you want to get a date from him when you contact.
I'll reach out to
him
Mr.
again.
Mole and figure something out.
I know Mrs. Drury's not back in the country until June 1st or something anyway.
Yeah, and I don't
So-
think she needs to be involved
I don't know.
at this part of it anyways.
Agreed. I want to get out there as soon as I get an opportunity to get out there.
I mean, we can
Set it
even, if it doesn't violate if it had to be just myself and each of you independent, depending on your schedules.
Well, we can do it like the road trip, right?
Yeah, site
Yeah.
visit,
Like the
site
road
visit. We just can't discuss,
Okay.
debate it.
So whatever works for you.
Yep.
So Jason, you'll get some dates from.
I will get some dates, yeah. Appointment process and status.
We were waiting June 1st, Mr. Chairman. The town clerk will get us a list of appointments that are up for the coming fiscal year from June 30th, and we are just about ready with the website to have everybody put in their the form that they're interested either to continue or to apply to be on a board or commission.
Did you say that you or Jim Middleton were going to add MPIC as a selection?
Yes, I will.
It is not done yet.
Nope.
So, and I do see other people are filling in for their reappointments.
Perfect. I got rights back to it. I didn't, when it was moved around,
Okay.
I lost the access to it. So
Okay.
Jim put it back.
The next topic, I will not be involved in. Whether or not we decide to you folks decide to discuss and deliberate the new appointment for the new lieutenant.
I'm just gonna move over here.
Well, shifting gears suddenly, I had the great opportunity to meet with each of you one-on-one, and thank you again for all that time you spent with me. Is very helpful, and then these questions puts a different light on it and how you answered them. I think I don't want to delay the decision, but I think I have a little more digesting to do on this and evaluate the whole picture now. So unless you're ready to debate with me your picks, I mean, I can.
No, it's a lot to take in. I want to
It
go
is.
through the notes again and I'll watch the videos of the interview again. And I think I'd be in a much better place.
For
a
the
week
little
from now.
more
6
difficult
days from
than
now.
2 at a time to weigh and contrast. So I know you sweated through it today, but.
They all had to go home and change except for Sergeant Taggart. Oh, and Sergeant Westcott, sorry.
So, I think I would appreciate just a touch more time to do that final.
Table it for the next agenda?
Yeah, we'll cover it
Yes.
next
please.
Tuesday,
All right,
next Monday.
next Monday.
Okay.
See y'all then.
All right, thanks.
All right, COA Director, internal and external postings done, interviews and next step.
So the chief and I have identified some candidates. We were hoping to possibly do a phone screen or a Zoom call with each of them, assuming they're interested before we moved anyone forward, but that's up to you.
How many applicants did we get?
There was quite a few of them. I would say at least 30.
Oh my goodness.
Not all of them.
I'm sure
had
you
the-
screened some of them
Yeah,
out.
wow.
Not all of them had the required qualifications.
You got a few phone calls to make then?
I would like to make some phone calls and see who's still interested and then even just get a feel for.
I would have no problem with that.
And who does the next interviews?
You would. You know,
Does the COA also? Are they joint, their interviews with the COA, or we do?
No,
It's-
You're the appointing authority.
Okay,
You certainly can
she-
involve them in whatever level you'd like.
all right, so that's carrying on. Okay.
The alphabet soup, the HSIC, High Speed Internet Committee, intermunicipal agreement for the Westfield Gas and Electric for, all right, the ISP, I got the other ones.
Internet service provider.
Okay. Agreement signed by select board, next step for process awaiting town council recommendation process to activate the municipal light plant board.
Mr. Chairman, since we kind of went right through new business to old business, I'll take this opportunity. I was informed this afternoon that the town was granted a $250,000 grant for the municipal fiber portion of this thing. So that's an additional monies coming in that'll help interconnect town buildings and town facilities, pump stations, sewer pump stations, the town beach, Wally Park, the boat ramps, and all of our municipal buildings, including the library, the schools, and the cemetery. We had applied for a total grant in cooperation with the Southwick, Tallinn, Granville Regional School District, but they only granted it to us as the town of Southwick. So, but $250,000, that's a great addition to the project.
Sure. Yes, it is.
And we'll go back to the other topic. So I'm gonna double back since Mr. Mogul informed me that I skipped over that to new business from anyone on the board here. So Diane,
I don't have any new business. There was enough here.
Mr. Mogul.
I shot my shot. That was it.
All right. Nadine, anything? Chief? And no, I have nothing. So now we'll go back to marijuana dispensary under the old business and dates to remember.
Okay, dates to remember, 6/7 deadline. Been going back and forth with a couple of very interested applicants this past week over the holiday weekend at midnight. So has Ben Coyle, got him involved
On the
and
phone at midnight.
With Ben Coyle? I can't
No,
imagine this
no,
rate at that hour.
emails, trading
kidding.
emails. And just reviewing a couple of questions with the planning board and coordinating things. So moving along, some very active applicants.
Very good. So we're Mass General Law, the 61, 61A, 61B, right of first refusal policy review. We have a joint meeting on the June 2024. Have we come up with an actual date on that?
I don't know, I wasn't scheduling it. I think we
Yeah,
kept saying.
we
June,
never
but
did pick a
I don't
date.
know if we
Oh,
picked
right
a
on
date or
June.
not. I think we're waiting to hear back from other boards, what their available dates were. Was the last I knew.
Okay. So we're gonna reach out to the boards.
So that needs to be firmed up.
Mr. Shield. Mr. Mogul, the T-Mobile hometown grants application review authorization pursuit. Have we had a chance to talk to Mr. Shield yet?
It did. And he mentioned to me something, I should have a meeting with him tomorrow as well, but he mentioned something. I thought we were talking about a canopy, then somebody else thought we were talking about Wi-Fi.
It's the Wi-Fi.
It's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
All right, I'll follow up with him tomorrow.
Basically, we're looking for, all I really need is what it would cost to set that up. As far as materials and I'm not sure if the corporation that is over there.
Yeah.
Does that type of install stuff or, but I just need that data to slot into there so I can finish up this grant application and then just get the interested parties to sign off. I need 5 town members, different groups and whatnot. So
Gotcha.
that's all I need on that one. Select master plan implementation subcommittee members.
We'll get to that for the,
Next meeting.
probably even after that,
After that.
when we get to the appointments, because that should be, we just mentioned to have that on the group. And I do have to tie off with Mr. Dougherty to close that out. We're so close.
Okay.
Proposed plan to incorporate buildings and grounds department under DPW. Were you working on that?
Well, we
Yeah, I mean, we were at the
made
poll,
it,
but-
it was a kind of a general idea that I brought forth. We had one take on it from the DPW director. And we've had some discussion about it, and then we had a presentation at our, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 meetings ago, because we met a couple times, but
Yep.
at our last public meeting where we had the interim buildings and grounds director come in and discuss it. I think we should schedule some time in a future meeting that before 9 o'clock that as a board to kind of discuss if and how we'd want to proceed on that.
With those departments here, or
It's up to the chair. I mean, I'd like to get the input from
Did we determine we need a legislative act or something?
I think eventually, I think you could do it on an interim basis, but we would need a legislative act if you were to add another division essentially to DPW, but
If we can make that happen, why don't we try and get them all here for the next meeting?
who they?
That would be the DPW and the buildings and grounds. And I don't think that's it right now, right?
and park and rec.
That was not in this.
It's part of the buildings and grounds crossover.
The crossover, and then we'll have park and rec here as well. No. That's the only thing I know of. I have no old business myself. On the scale.
We do need to carry, we tabled the Southwick Inn 1-day liquor licenses last time, so we need to pick that back up. For June 29th, before June 29th.
That's it.
Nope, I have one other, sorry. And before, things get nearing the end on the LPP, I just wanted to suggest that rather than a member on our conservation commission, I think Suffield might want to create its own lake management subcommittee to its own conservation commission. They already have members on our lake management that are the segue. Maybe they need to recognize them on their side and have them be that voice rather than members of our conservation. It is matters that relate to that issue. And it isn't then matters that relate to South Loomis Road Street.
But isn't the fact that LMC is an advisory subcommittee to this board, and we wanted Suffield residents on it to get their take on it.
Mhm.
And the
I'm suggesting
Congamon
that
Lake
you-
is a jurisdictional body of water in the Commonwealth. It's not in Suffield.
Mhm.
Curious what their appetite would be to do it.
What is the purpose of them being a member of our Conservation Commission? What's their appetite for that? The lake,
Yeah, I get it.
so.
No, I get it. I'm just thinking out loud because I think frankly, it would be more appropriate, or it would be as appropriate to have a liaison to the Suffield Conservation Commission, because jurisdictional work to a wetland, even though it's across the border, could be impactful to the Congamon Lake, which is located in the Commonwealth, versus the other way around. But it's a good discussion. I mean, there was.
They still have not presented this until their June meeting. So
Conservation.
actually to their select board. It got pushed back to this coming month. So I will be at whichever meeting they're gonna put it on. And I'll address some of these as well.
Alright. That was it for me.
Mr. Mover?
A couple things. One, Mr. Chairman, I just was perusing, and it was in our general mail tonight, and there's a conservation minutes of May the 6th. A resident of Berkshire Avenue was opining why the select board members were discussing the LPP agreement with Suffield without representation of the Conservation Commission members at the meeting. The reason I just read that, it caught my eye because the LPP is within the conservation's jurisdiction. The agreement with the town of Suffield, of which you're now representing the town of Southwick, along with some members of the conservation and the harbor master, was merely a financial agreement between the town of Suffield and the town of Southwick in order to have encourage compliance with the LPP itself. Residents of Suffield were always able to and still can, if they wish to, sign up with the LPP and pay the fee themselves directly if they don't want to be involved with the agreement. That was a first of its kind agreement between the town of Suffield and the town of Southwick to bring much needed revenue into the LPP, exceeding any revenue that had ever been generated from the town of Suffield before. And I believe it aided with compliance with the LPP in general. And I'm glad to see the successor agreement has additional monies in it. But I don't think we were doing anything. The implication that it was somehow untoward, I think, is far off base. And it certainly was our purview to create an intergovernmental agreement between Southwick and Suffield. That's it for that. I want to thank the Legion, the VFW, the Buildings and Grounds, and Lisa Anderson for pivoting at the last moment when the weather became threatening yesterday. It wasn't just the rain. I saw some conversation about this. I personally would have gladly walked down College Highway in an absolute downpour to honor our veterans. But there was a forecast of significant lightning. And I, for one, would not want to have that blood on my hands. And also in recognition of some of our veterans who are not as young and spry as yourself. So I want to thank Lisa and Mr. Anderson for coming down to Town Hall early in the morning yesterday and setting up the auditorium so that we're able to have that great event, honoring our veterans at Town Hall when the weather turned. And I noticed that a lot of other towns, surrounding towns, also did the same. And I also want to congratulate the Southwick Police and Fire Association. I heard you guys had a great event. Apologies, I was out of town, but I heard it was a great event and a good fundraiser for the associations, and glad the weather cooperated for that. And we talked about the trees on North Pond, and we talked about the grant for the municipal fiber. So that's it for me, sir.
I'll just congratulate Doug for being back on the select board as well.
Yes, congratulations, Mr. Mo.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
I think I am but one member.
As Chief Landis, as you know, you were the Navy guy. I'm not sure how they did it. When there's a chance of lightning within 3 miles, you're off the flight line. So you did right. So
Knew it was coming, but we had it. It was the right decision to make. But
you gain anything old?
I'm good.
Yeah, I believe we have to go into executive at 9, right?
We can go into exec at any time, so.
All right. That will be the end. Sure, Mr. Didi.
Agree with the clarification. So signing authority tomorrow is soon as we have a warrant for tomorrow morning to be signed.
The chairman's been designated to sign.
I'll change.
A payables warrant or a payroll warrant or?
I saw it on there.
I will hang on to them for tonight.
Yeah, I as well.
Oh, this is delegation of payroll and payables, but.
Yeah, it's both. We did both. Every Tuesday or Wednesday, you'll get a phone call.
All right, Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, I guess if we can go into executive session at any time. That will be the end of the public session. We will be going to executive session. And I will be looking for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsections 2 and 3, and Chapter 214, Section 1B, Labor Council. Litigation matters and strategy for collective bargaining with Police Union Coalition, Fire IAFF, DPW, non-union staff and clerk union, UPSCU, executive session, RE MGL, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsection 2 and 3, Chapter 214, Section 1B, and exception number 2. Move to go into executive session to conduct collective bargaining sessions with non-union personnel and not to reconvene an open session. Move to go into executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel and to not reconvene an open session. Declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body and to not reconvene an open session. Exception number 3, move to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and that the chair move to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to not to reconvene an open session. Move to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation and that the chair declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the body and to not reconvene an open session. Regarding Chapter 214, Section 1B, a person shall have a right against unreasonable, substantial, or serious interference with their privacy, and the Superior Court shall have jurisdiction in equity to enforce such right and in connection therewith to award damages.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session. You can second.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Jason Perron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
There you go.